Hey y'all, welcome to a new Lunchbox video. I'm going to be showing y'all everything that I packed in my husband's lunchbox for him to take to work over the course of his 5-day work week. So first up, I made him some yellow rice and some air fried barbecue chicken legs. This particular yellow rice is so good if you have never tried it. It's perfect for lunch or dinner. I really need to start including it into more of our dinners. I tend to forget about it. But every time I have it, I'm just like, dang, this is so good. But I just simply follow the directions on the back of that package. The only thing that I do different is I cut the cooking time down a little bit, because every time I've listened to their cooking time, it just kind of burns to the bottom of my pot. So it says 20 minutes. I do 15 minutes, and then I fluff it, turn off the heat, and just let it sit there for about 5 minutes. And that makes it perfect every single time. So while that's cooking, I'm going to get started on the chicken legs. So as you can see, I've got 3 here, and I'm just getting that patted dry with a paper towel. I drizzled it with just a little bit of olive oil, and this is the seasoning I'm going to be using, the grind staff 3 Kings rub. I like using that on anything that I'm going to add barbecue sauce to, but it's good on a lot of different things. But again, just use whatever seasoning blend that you want to. I'm just making sure to coat both sides. And I know I did a big no-no. I try to alternate hands, but I did end up touching that bottle with a chicken juice hand. But don't worry, I cleaned it down good, disinfected it good, everything's fine. But I did preheat my air fryer basket for 5 minutes at 400 degrees before adding in my chicken. Sprayed that basket with some Pam cooking spray specifically made for the air fryer, and I'm just going to cook it for 10 minutes per side. So it's going to get 20 minutes of cook time before adding the barbecue sauce. But let me tell y'all, this is one of my absolute favorite things to make in the air fryer. I have been doing it for several years now at this point, and it's just an amazing recipe. So good. So this barbecue sauce right here, the Kinder's Hickory Brown Sugar, it is the absolute best. I'm a huge Sweet Baby Ray's fan. That's typically what I use. But I had a coupon on this, so I decided to give it a try, and there is no turning back. It is just delicious. So anyways, I just added a decent amount to each one and just brushed it on with a silicone brush, and I popped it back in the air fryer for a final 3 minutes. And as you can see, it's kind of caramelized to it. Just perfect. So now I'm going to get his little lunch container ready to go. So I'm just adding down a good thick layer of that hot yellow rice. And then I was able to fit all 3 of those chicken legs in there. I wasn't too sure if it was going to fit, but it did. So a lot of people ask me when I prepare these lunches, and for the most part, I do it the day before. That way in the morning, it can just be, grabbed and go. But I do let it completely cool down before adding it to the fridge. And yeah, there it is. I think it looks incredible. I'm going to go ahead and lay out his fork as well. I also baked up some gingerbread banana bread, and oh my goodness, this was my first time making this recipe, and it is just delicious. Definitely one of the best banana breads I have made. I also added a vanilla glaze to it with some festive little Christmas sprinkles, but I will link that recipe down below in my description box. I also did film it for TikTok. I just haven't edited it and uploaded it yet. My goal is to get that up tomorrow, just in case you do follow me over there. I can show y'all how I made that. So I gave him a good thick slice of that in his little glass divided container. He's not a man that's big on vegetables, but he does like fruit. So I try to include that each day. So this day I gave him some purple grapes. And here is how he is able to heat up his lunches. He is a truck driver, so this has been perfect for him. We're currently using the LiQWYD. It's battery powered. I just charge it up at home. All he has to do is grab his lunch container that I prepared from the fridge and pop it in here. And there is a couple different ways to heat it up. You can set the lunchtime in the morning, that way you don't have to fool with it later, or there is a heat now option, but either way it takes about 2 hours to fully heat up. So you do have to pre-plan just a little bit, but it's worth it for him, especially in this really cold weather. Up next, I had some cooked taco meat in my freezer that I wanted to use, so I decided to make a couple taco quesadillas. Any type of quesadilla is always a huge hit with him. So I started off with 2 burrito-size flour tortillas. I did cut a slit into half of that tortilla. That way I can fold it up, which I will show y'all here in just a second. But I'm going to start off by spreading on some refried beans on 2 of those sections. These are my homemade refried beans that I cook in the crock pot. I did share that in a video recently, but I will also share that recipe in my description box because these are honestly the best. They have the best texture and so much flavor. The last time I made them, I just froze a couple portions so that I could, pull it out, thaw it out when I wanted to, which is what I did. I did heat them up in the microwave a little bit first to make them easier to spread. I did also heat up the taco meat in the microwave. That way it wouldn't be like too crumbly. That way it kind of stick together a little bit better so it didn't like fall out of the tortilla before I could even get it onto the skillet. But in that last and final section, I'm just going to sprinkle on some shredded sharp cheddar cheese. And if this was like for dinner, I feel like instead of doing 2 sections of the beans, I would swap one for some guacamole. He would like that and I wanted to do that, but I just wasn't sure how that would hold up, by the time he got to actually eat it. I thought it might turn like really brown. I don't know. I might attempt it next time. I'm not sure. But yeah, as you can see, I got it folded up. It's really cool, nice and handheld. And I like to cook my quesadillas in butter. So I just melt some onto the skillet. When I want to flip it, I just lift up the quesadilla, re-butter it, and then, continue cooking it. So I just do a few minutes on each side until it's nice and golden brown and crispy. So I did decide last minute to cut these in half. That way, for one, they would fit better into his container. And also just make it easier for him to eat because, with his job, it's not always easy for him to set aside enough time for like a typical lunchtime. So, this way it's kind of easier for him to drive and eat if he needs to. And what goes better with this than some good old chips and salsa? So I gave him a little baggie of tortilla chips. We both really love this great value cantina style salsa. I had just a little bit left in my fridge, so I just gave him the rest of that. He can dip his chips and his quesadilla in it. I think I was out of fresh fruit this day. I needed to go to the store, but I did have these peaches in my pantry. I bought these at Walmart. This was my first time coming across them. They caught my eye, so I figured that would be perfect for him and my kids' lunch boxes. So I gave them 2 halves, which is basically a whole peach. I did slice it up into more manageable pieces, and then you can't go wrong with a good classic honey bun. On this day, I made some pulled pork vegetable soup. So the last time I made a large amount of pulled pork, I froze several different portions of it so that I could use it in different recipes. I purposefully did not add barbecue sauce to it for this reason, but I just thawed that out and added about a pound into my large Dutch oven. I covered it with 4 cups of chicken broth, and then I added in 3 cups of just some frozen mixed vegetables. I added in a can of cream corn, a can of mild Rotel. I did not drain anything. It's got to be the mild for us or else it's too spicy. And then a can of stewed tomatoes. That was my first time buying those. Thought those were interesting. And now I'm just seasoning it up. So I just threw in some onion powder and garlic powder, salt, black pepper, and about a heaping teaspoon of chili powder. So I was going to get that stirred together and wait for it to come to a boil. The recipe does call for some rice to be added in with it. I'm sure that would be good, but I just decided against it. I was worried about it like soaking up all the broth since I was going to be serving it the next day for him anyways. So it was really good like this. I simmered it for about 30 minutes and that was it. Extremely easy, extremely quick to throw together. And obviously that whole pot was not just for him. We all had it for lunch. It's me, him, and we have 2 kids. So we all really enjoyed this. Josh loved it. He bragged on it. I know he said he's not a vegetable man, but I really mean like raw veggies. He's all right with cooked vegetables. So anyways, I let that cool down, got the spoon laid out, and I decided a good old peanut butter sandwich was needed with this type of soup. So I whipped out the Jif, that's our favorite brand, added a thick layer to it, and we're going to do some marshmallow fluff on the other side. I talked about this in, I believe it was my kids' Lunchbox video recently, that we have been obsessed with these, and we have been. It is just so good. So along with that, I'm also going to give him a good amount of some strawberries that I washed and sliced. We have a hard time keeping those in the house because we all love them and go through them quick. I also decided a Baby Bell cheese would go really good with it, so I just put that right on top of his sandwich. On this day, I made Josh a really delicious salad with some leftover fried chicken. So this salad bowl that I'm using, I bought that off of Amazon years ago, and it is still going strong. We still love it. I will link it as long as I can find it. I'm sure that won't be no problem. But I just put some iceberg lettuce in the bottom. Then I put on that little insert that's going to hold all of the toppings. So here's that leftover fried chicken. I bought this at the Kroger Deli. It was like right beside the rotisserie chickens, and honestly, this is the first time I've noticed it. I don't know if they do it every day. I mean, I would imagine they did, but I shop there all the time, and this is the first time I noticed it. But it was so cheap to me. It was like $8.99 for a big bucket, and they even had a deal where if you bought it, you got like a free 6-pack of mini pop to go with it. So I couldn't pass it up, and let me tell y'all, we're obsessed. Like, the chicken is so juicy, and the breading is so flavorful and seasoned well. Like, I'm definitely going to buy that again, and it's really good cold. So yeah, I decided to chop it up and use that for the meat for his salad, and he really, really loved it. I also, sliced him some cherry tomatoes in half. I put a touch of sea salt on those, and he has been loving cheese cubes lately, so I just did a good amount of some Colby Jack cheese cubes over there to the side. And then in the little middle cup that does come out, I filled it with ranch. That is his go-to salad dressing, mine too. And I just made sure that that lid was on there good so that nothing would leak. So I went and stuck that in the fridge. And I'm also going to make some cinnamon sugar Chex Mix. This is my first time ever making this or even having it. And I can definitely see the hype. It was so good, and I feel like it's just like the perfect thing to make this time of year. I feel like it would be really great in like little treat bags to give to people or teachers, whoever. But basically, it's just 8 cups of the Rice Chex cereal. I put that in a large mixing bowl, and then here I'm just melting down a stick of butter. The recipe didn't say whether to use unsalted or salted, but I decided to use salted, which was a great choice. I love that with sweet things. And then once the butter was melted, I added a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and with my fork I'm just stirring it really good to make sure that that's nice and dissolved, and I popped it back in the microwave for a final 30 seconds. Then here I just took that sugary buttery mixture and drizzled it all over top of that cereal, and then I switched on over to a soft spatula, and I am just taking my time and very gently folding all of this together to try and do my best to distribute this. That was a little bit tricky. I really need like some larger mixing bowls, but really at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. I did my best, and then I just dumped it on out to my largest cookie sheet that I have. I believe this one's like a half size. I didn't even know they made them bigger, but I guess I need to get me one of those. But I did line it with some parchment paper first. I spread that out evenly, and you need some cinnamon sugar. You can easily make it yourself with just those 2 ingredients, sugar and cinnamon, but I already had this pre-made one on hand, so I generously sprinkled that over top of everything. And my oven was preheated to 275 degrees, and in total, this needs to bake for 45 minutes. So it does state that every 15 minutes you need to take it out, and with a metal spatula, which I don't really think it has to be metal, but you just flip it on over. And yeah, that was a little bit tedious to do, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just don't overthink it. But yeah, 45 minutes in total. And here is what it looked like when it was done. The way this is going to make your house smell is everything. And I want each and every one of y'all to experience a handful of this straight from the oven while it is still warm. Truly just magical. We all love this so much. Honestly, this whole tray was gone within a day. But once it did cool down, I did fill up this little Tupperware bowl of it for him to take on to work. So just going to get that covered with a lid. Also, in a lot of my previous Lunchbox videos, I typically show like what I pack him to drink. But here lately, he has just been filling his truck up with all kinds of different drinks. So that's why I haven't been showing that. Lastly, I am going to pack him some turkey and provolone sliders. So I am using the King's Hawaiian rolls, and I actually made a dinner using those as well that same night, and I only needed 12. So I bought these at Costco. So of course they come in the bigger pack. So it was a pack of 16. So I decided at the same time to just go ahead and make him a few sandwiches using the other 4. So I took a serrated knife, got all of those sliced in half, and I typically don't buy that Oscar Mayer turkey. This was my first time. I bought it specifically to make some like homemade Lunchables, but it's pretty good. So I just did 1 thick slice per sandwich. I took a half a slice of provolone per sandwich and just made that work. I did some mayo and mustard in between the meat and cheese, and I just secured the whole sandwich with a little party toothpick just to keep it together. So I'm just going to stuff all 4 of those in this container that I got from Walmart. If you've watched any of my previous Lunchbox videos, I'm almost always pulling this out. So I'm big on using what I have until it breaks. So I've had this for a really long time. I also peeled and sliced him up 2 kiwis. That's one of his favorite fruits. So I try to include that pretty often. I also made some homemade peanut butter cookies, so I included 2 of those in there. And of course, I am going to include that recipe. I have made this many times and it's really simple. So to a mixing bowl, I add in 1 cup of peanut butter. You want to use just like regular normal peanut butter, not like a natural runny one or anything. To that, I also add in a half a cup of brown sugar and a half a cup of just some regular granulated sugar. I crack in 1 egg, and I do about a teaspoon of some vanilla extract. I was a little bit short of that because I just simply ran out, but I'm just going to get this mixed together with my handheld mixer. You just want it all to look nice and combined and smooth. I do this for about 2 minutes, I would say. So I got a cookie sheet out and I have lined it with some parchment paper, and I'm just simply taking my smallest cookie scoop that I own, filling it up with the dough and plopping it out onto my parchment lined cookie sheet. This dough pops out very easily. I know a lot of my other cookie recipes that I use, sometimes it just doesn't work well with a cookie scoop. It drives me insane, but these are perfect for that. So now I'm just going to take these cookies one by one, and I'm just rolling them around in my palms for just a few seconds just to kind of reshape it. That way they all kind of, look the same size. They're all kind of equal. Also, this recipe makes anywhere from like 15 to 16 cookies. I really should have just used a bigger cookie sheet to fit them all on there. So I did have to do this in 2 batches because you do want them to be at least like around 2 inches apart. Doesn't have to be perfect, but when it comes to peanut butter cookies, I really like that classic crisscross pattern. So you just simply take your fork and, rock it in both directions. I bake that at 350 for 10 minutes. I let it sit on the cookie sheet for just a few minutes. That way it can transfer without like falling apart. And then I let it completely cool on a cooling rack. That way they don't overbake, but it's seriously the most perfect peanut butter cookie. And also to go with this, I am going to give him some of these Stubbs Sticky Sweet barbecue cheese curls. Those are just like $1 for that big bag at the dollar store, and they're really good. But that does wrap up this video. I really do hope that you enjoyed it and found some different ideas that you'd like to try out for yourself or someone else. And as always, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have the best weekend, and I will see you guys in my next video.